Bitcoin is on the verge of a higher time frame correction toward the downside. With the macro chart starting to show weakness, the short-term price action moving toward the downside, the bulls are starting to lose higher time frame control. However, all hope is not quite yet lost as Bitcoin still remains above one crucial horizontal support. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the next targets for Bitcoin, the macro price action, and of course, what the bulls will need to be able to do to reclaim control and push the prices back upwards. Let's go ahead and jump in. Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you all have a fantastic day today. We're here to take a look at Bitcoin from a short-term and macro perspective. Bitcoin is quite literally on the edge of a cliff, on the verge of a collapse, ready to make the next move towards 25.2 to 24.4K. We're going to be discussing this from a technical and structural perspective on both the short term, the macro, and again on the daily timeframes. However, the bulls have not quite given up yet. There is still a possibility they can reclaim control and push the prices back above 30,000. We're going to be discussing specifically what they will need to do from both a technical and a structural perspective to facilitate that move upwards and exactly what to look for to get that move. Now, before we get into it, smash the like button, hit the comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We do daily videos focusing on Bitcoin, the facts, the data, the technicals, the structural information, no BS, no hype, no emotion, pure raw TA. That is the kind of content you're interested in. Subscribe to the channel and join our Telegram, the second link down below. You'll get access to charts, updates, analysis, educational posts, news events, information, market data, and so much more in here, guys. The second link down below. If you're interested in trading signals, you can join our VIP channel. We have over 500 members. You get access to trading signals of exact entries, exact targets, exact stop losses. As you can see over here, just yesterday's trade signals over here. Bitcoin short, entries, targets, stop losses, everything is detailed for you. Not only do we do trading signals, we have a group chat. In the group chat, we have a bunch of different chats over here. We have a general chat, we have a trading chart and education chat, we have altcoin analysis, we have videos, and we have a help chat. Everything is specifically laid out for you guys to improve your trading, increase your understanding of both technical analysis and structural analysis, and of course, make profits along the way. If you're interested in more details, go to our free channel, click the link above, and you can find all of our contact information and of course, VIP information for both channels. And if you're interested, you can see some of our example trades over here. This month alone, we've had 18 trades and only one loss. Absolutely insane, guys. Had an awesome month. Let's go ahead and get into Bitcoin. So for the month, Bitcoin, we've had quite a rough month. We're down 8.3% for the month, and in the last couple days, we have been in quite an aggressive chop zone. We've been basically moving sideways. The markets are quite boring right now. Not too much is going on. There's been some big swings up and down, but more or less we've been quite stagnant for the last 5 or 6 days. But however, for May, we are down 8.31%. We're 19 days into the month now, meaning we're about 2/3 of the way through. 24-hour volume is down 1.32%. We're currently sitting at 73 billion, and 24-hour liquidations are up 11%, sitting at $87 million. Look at these liquidations, you can see the majority of the liquidations, around 2/3 of those liquidations, have come from our long positions. Those longs did get quite brutalized as Bitcoin took a short-term plummet yesterday after double topping at this area of which was around 27,400. There's a nice double top over here, and we ended up pushing down, and this liquidation week, this move toward the downside, liquidated a lot of longs. Thankfully, if you were in VIP, you actually would have caught that signal. We actually shorted the top over there with a target of 27,000. You can see right over here, we got that move nice toward the downside. However, guys, those liquidations really haven't accounted to too much as it is only a short-term move, and again, 87 million liquidations isn't too significant, but it does show you that the market is still very, very, very heavily on quite some tight margins here. People are really jumping into these leverage trades, aggressive amounts with very tight stop losses, with large quantities, with small margins, and they're getting kind of pinched. And this is quite indicative of what we call a chop zone. If we look at the last 24 hours of liquidations, besides that surge in long liquidations over here, We do see, if we go ahead and zoom in, you can see both shorts and longs are basically being constantly liquidated. And again, this is quite indicative of what you would call a chop zone, where the price is more or less moving sideways with aggressive moves every few hours or every few days in one direction, and then coming back down to our center point, moving sideways once more. Now, this is happening as a consolidation underneath our uptrending diagonal resistance, and now pushing underneath 26,800 / 27,000, which, as you would know, is a major horizontal support / trigger point for a continuation downwards to 26,000. We'll discuss that in today's video. Moving on from there, guys, the volatility index is of course moving down for both the 60-day. You can see over the last 30 days have dropped around 1%. And the 30-day period, you can see again in the last 30 or so days, we have dropped around about 1.5%. So our volatility index is dropping on the 30 and the 60. Again, with decreasing volatility, we have decreasing volume, decreasing momentum. These are all signs of weakness on the charts. And this weakness has been quite visibly noticeable for a fairly long time. We've been discussing this weakness ever since we kind of entered this range over here. We saw decreasing momentum, decreasing volume, decreasing velocity, decreasing speed, and all of this was signifying that price was losing strength. When we had that bearish divergence at the top over here, that was a deviation and a signal for a correction, and we've been basically shorting ever since we had that breakout over 30,000, and has been paying off. Now, let's go ahead and discuss the DXY and everything there. We'll come back to Bitcoin. So the DXY has broken towards upside. It has actually had quite a significant move towards upside. This is quite a strong break. Around 103.5 currently, ever since the breakout of 102. As you know, the DXY rallies, we do generally see stock markets and cryptocurrencies markets move toward the downside. Now, the short-term intraday correlation is actually quite low, so we can see these markets oppose each other, meaning we can see the DXY rally and the stock market rally. But if we zoom out to a higher time frame, look at it from a weekly perspective, that is when the correlation of these trends start to line up a little more. As the DXY does move down on a higher time frame, we do generally see the stock market move up. When the DXY does move up on a higher time frame, we do generally see the inverse. And at any point, the inverse correlation is only negative 0.7, meaning there's a 70% probability that they do move inversely or as opposed to one another over the broad scheme of things on a short-term and a macro basis. So we can see right now that correlation is kind of being stretched a little bit. As we do so on the daily, as the DXY has been moving up, we can see the stock market is moving up. The S&P 500 has been moving upwards, and S&P 500 has actually broken past, as of right now, this short-term, well, this long-term horizontal neckline, but we've only had a one-day break above without a close. What we'd be looking for in this one is a 7-day. This is, again, a greater than 1 year long resistance. We are looking for at least a 7-day close above, ideally a monthly close above. But a 7-day close above will be a good start to confirm that this resistance level has broken toward the upside. So I do think it's too soon to say that this level has actually broken. Right now, we are pushed above it as deviation. Will we hold above it is another question. Time will tell. If we do, we are looking for a further continuation up to around 4,300. For the S&P 500, for the Dow Jones, guys, we can see we have bounced around this lower level over here. If we do continue upwards, we are going to be challenging this upper resistance. However, if we do reject and break down from this uptrending support, we can expect that move toward the downside. Let's go ahead, guys, and get into Bitcoin. I wanted to briefly interrupt today's video to discuss my favorite exchange, Bitget. If you're looking for a safe, honest, reliable, and accurate exchange, look no further than Bitget. You can sign up by the link in the description to support the channel and get access to 3 exclusive perks. That being up to $5,005 in trading rewards, up to 15% discount on your trading fees, and exclusive access to our MegaWhale promotion campaigns that we run every few months. Alongside that, guys, Bitget is a non-KYC exchange, meaning you do not have to KYC. It is completely optional. Bitget also has a protection fund that secures user assets against external hacks and threats in the space. Alongside that, guys, Bitget offers up to 125x leverage on futures with extensive amount of trading pairs and liquidity on the market. I highly recommend signing up to Bitget. It is the exchange I've been using for over a year and a half now, including all of our members. If you're interested in signing up, trading there, and supporting the channel, you can do so with the link in the description. Thanks for listening. So as you can see in the chart over here, I've actually gone ahead and labeled some annotations to make it more clear what these zones mean and what the narrative or directional bias should be when we are moving through these levels. So to make it very clear, we'll start from the top side up. Anything above $32,000 is going to be macro bullish, okay? Anything above $30,000, we are technically still in this bullish to macro bullish territory, right? The reason I say we're not macro bullish is because we do need a monthly candle close above 30,000 to be in that macro bullish territory. And the reason we need a monthly close above 30,000 to be macro bullish is because if we look at the 4-year cycle, we can see 30,000 corresponds or relates to the prior yearly low of our bull run cycle. It's going to be that yearly low support range. Every single time we close a monthly candle above that, we actually trigger a uptrend on the macro scale towards our dotted trend line. In this instance, would bring us to 48,000. Hence why 30,000 is a macro trigger for the trend to flip bullish. Moving downwards, if we are moving downwards from 30 to 28,000, okay, because 30 to 28,000 is that resistance. If we're moving downwards from that point, which we are now, we are in a weak bearish trend. The reason we are in a weak bearish trend is because the daily trend is losing strength. We are technically bearish on the daily over here. However, the weekly trend is still strong. We do still have a uptrend on the weekly. It is losing strength, but it is still a confirmed uptrend. So we are weak bearish, as we have a discrepancy between the strength on the smaller time frame and the strength on the higher time frame. That kind of neutralizes out to what you would call weak bearish, or if you want to expand on it, it would be called increasing bearish strength. If we drop below 24.4k, that would be bearish, as we would have officially already have lost the daily uptrend. This would be a loss in this range. It's actually being lost now. And of course, if we lose 24.4k, we would have lost the weekly uptrend, and therefore we would be bearish overall. If we lose 18,400 to 20,000, that would put us in a macro bearish trend. That will send us toward new lows. So we'll come back and elaborate on all this in a second. We'll discuss the technicals, but we do need to have an understanding of our overall levels. For the short term, we have a similar annotation going on to explain what is happening. So anything above that $30,000 range is going to be bullish. Specifically on the short-term time frame, we are actually looking a little bit lower. We're looking for a trigger at 29.8k. The 29.8k is going to be the upper resistance level right over here, and if we break over, that will be a trigger for a continuation upwards, and therefore we can say we are short-term bullish if we break over that level. Anything between 28k, which is POC, and that bullish trigger is going to be neutral, as this is a sideways consolidation, and thus we're going to be in a neutral zone. Anything below $28,000, guys, which we are currently doing right now, is going to be bearish. As you can see, the price is moving downwards. And again, the strength of the bearishness increases as we move lower and lower and lower. So as we move toward the downside further and further, with bearish strength increases, and we get into a stronger and stronger short-term bearish trend. So we'll come back and discuss that all in a second. So why is this all important, guys? Because we're looking at the next move for Bitcoin. We need to understand, again, where these zones of liquidity are, where these zones of support are, and how the bias or how a directional trend can shift when these levels are either reached or breached. Very important to understand, so we can actually trade with the trend as opposed to against the trend. So from a daily perspective, guys, we are in a bearish trend. It is a weak bearish trend, but it is a developing bearish trend, meaning it has the potential to develop into a macro downtrend or even a weekly downtrend, which we'll be discussing in a second. From the daily perspective, guys, we are very much bearish. What we can see already is we had a bearish divergence play out on the RSI, and as you can see, we had rising price action represented by this red uptrending line, and we had a downward momentum. So a downward momentum, decreasing momentum, rising price action. Remember this, guys, momentum is a combination of volatility, velocity, and speed primarily. These are the three components of momentum. We also have volume and we have liquidity, but our three main components, of course, are these three over here. So if we look at momentum as a whole, and we see that momentum is falling, what does it tell us about these 5 metrics? It tells us that these metrics are falling. Now, if we consider the strength of price action, or if you want to look at it more specific or more broadly, the trend, right? The trend is kind of like the strength of a price action is essentially the trend, right? If you have strong price action, you have an uptrend. If you have weak price action, you're generally moving into a downtrend, or you are losing strength on that trend. So if we do have decreasing metrics or weakening metrics, and we know that the strength of price action is again, equated by the value of these metrics. And we know that momentum is a combination of these metrics. If we have decreasing momentum, it is safe to assume that the strength of the trend is also weakening or decreasing. Therefore, during this uptrend over here, we could notice that we had an uptrending price. However, we were weakening. This was a weakening trend as it was pushing upwards. And that $30,000 resistance was a key resistance level in which the weakness was able to develop into this now what we see downtrend. And as per the technicals, we can see the downtrend has developed and the downtrend is very much present on the chart. We have lost the 50 EMA, which is that red line going through. We've lost the Gaussian channel midline. We have lost the upper band of the Gaussian channel. And of course, like we said, we have seen not only the RSI indicate the momentum is moving downwards and in a downtrend, but if we bring up something such as the market cipher B, I'll go ahead and bring up the market cipher B. We can see very clearly the market cipher B is showing us negative momentum. Negative momentum being this blue zone underneath the 0 point on the histogram. So we have 0 point over here, we have positive, okay, we have negative. We draw that trend line across, you can see we have positive momentum over here, we have negative momentum here, we're in the negative range, we have negative momentum. So all of that is signifying that not only we are in a downtrend now on the daily, but the strength of this trend is not only losing bullish strength, but it is gaining bearish strength as it moves down. And that is why we're saying we are in a weak bearish trend toward the downside, which is developing into a weekly trend. What we can see, guys, Bitcoin is quite literally sitting here on the edge of a cliff. We have temporary support from the daily Gaussian channel lower band, and we are just hanging on to this short-term horizontal support level, which we'll discuss in the short-term analysis. But if we go to the weekly chart and we start discussing the weekly trend, what we can see is Bitcoin, while testing that lower band of the Gaussian channel daily, while being in this downtrend on the daily or developing downtrend, we still do have a weekly uptrend. And we can confirm that because the price is above the 200 moving average on the weekly, the price is above the 50 EMA on the weekly, and the price is above the Gaussian channel midline on the weekly. So although we have a developing downtrend, the weekly uptrend is still intact. However, like I said, the weekly uptrend is still now weakening. So it's not quite lost. It is weakening, but it is still intact. When does the weekly uptrend lose? When do we lose the weekly uptrend? Well, we need to see a loss of 3 very significant levels. From a technical perspective, we're going to have to see a loss of the 50 EMA and the 200 EMA. If those 2 levels are lost, we'll be testing the midline of the Gaussian channel. The midline of the Gaussian channel and the bull market support band are converging. And then finally, we have our lower support range, which is our liquidity zone between 24.4 and 25.2. So those 3 key level areas of confluence, if are lost, that will actually break the weekly uptrend. Meaning, if 25.2 to 24.4K is lost, that deletes the weekly uptrend. That puts us into a weekly downtrend. If we are on a weekly downtrend, the probability of a macro downtrend becomes higher, okay? What we have seen right now in the 4-year cycle is, of course, a reversal structure. We are not in a monthly uptrend. We are not in a macro uptrend. We are in a daily and a weekly uptrend here. The daily uptrend has been crushed, right? We are no longer in a daily uptrend. However, we are in a weekly uptrend. What we can see in the monthly chart is that we do have a bearish engulfing candle here at resistance. This could be indicative of a reversal. How low could the reversal take us? Well, our current target is 24.4K to 25.2K as per the weekly chart. But if that level is lost, we could see Bitcoin come lower into this bearish territory, okay? And if we come into this bearish territory, that increases the probability that we will potentially move into our macro bearish territory. So what is the chance of Bitcoin bouncing here? What will we need to see for the bulls to start to reclaim control? So as I've been saying this entire time, this is good overall, okay? We do need to see retracements on the higher time frame, on the daily chart. We can't just go up forever. We're not in a bull market yet, so we're not going to see that. Every correction that keeps Bitcoin above 25.2K to 24.4K is and should be considered a healthy correction. So although I've been bearish since 30K, okay, and I've been expecting a move towards this level, I do understand that this area here is a massive area of confluence and could potentially flip the trend or continue the uptrend on the weekly chart, which could develop into a monthly uptrend. What I would be looking at are two things. Number one, either if we do reach this level, would be a bounce from this level, okay, from a structural perspective. Number two would be invalidation of the need to reach this level, which we'll talk about in the short term. And finally, the second one from a technical perspective is going to be a invalidation of the downtrending momentum, which is the RSI is going to have to break through this downtrending momentum and flip the momentum positive to push the price back above 30,000. If you see the RSI do this, we are most likely going to see the price break above 30,000. I do believe we're going to see this happen before we see the $30,000 break. If we do see that continuation upwards, the RSI will most likely break this downtrending momentum pattern before the price breaks over 30,000. So that's going to be a very strong leading indicator that Bitcoin is going to break through 30,000. Of course, if we do that, we have a higher chance of closing a monthly over 30,000. We have a higher chance of closing a month over 30,000. We're entering a macro uptrend. That is what Bitcoin is going to need to do on the daily chart to reclaim the bullish strength. On a weekly chart, it's going to have to remain above 25.2 to 24.4. From the short-term perspective, guys, you can see Bitcoin is, of course, in this downtrend. We are in a bearish trend. We've been in bearish trend for quite some time now for Bitcoin. Of course, you can see we are underneath a very, very key uptrending diagonal resistance resistance now, which was once support, being this diagonal solid black trend line you can see moving through the chart over here. Currently, we are sitting between 26.8 and $27,000, a major trigger level. For Bitcoin to reclaim strength on the smaller time frame, we do need to break above $28,000. $28,000 will need to be broken, as this is the POC level, the point of control. If $28,000 is broken, we will be flipping this entire chunk of resistance, which is now above us, into support. That will facilitate a potential move toward the upside. Furthermore, we will need to be breaking out of this downtrending diagonal resistance to potentially flip from this neutral into bullish pattern. Until then, guys, expect the trend to continue downwards and expect a move to 26,000. At the moment, the trend is still bearish until it is proven otherwise, and therefore your shorts are going to still be more favorable on the higher time frames, on the smaller time frames, as opposed to your long positions. It doesn't mean you can't take long positions, but it does mean you have to be more selective with your long positions and potentially be more aggressive with your profit taking and risk management strategies on your long positions. If we go ahead and zoom out, guys, to say like a 8-hour chart, and we can bring up the VRPV, you can see that we do have quite a strong gap in the VRPV, which takes us down to 25.2 to 24.4. So we do know that while we remain underneath the POC, this is the most probable direction, and this will be our major area of liquidity. It doesn't mean we're going to reach it, but it does mean the general trajectory of the price is moving in this direction and has already moved in that direction since we have been saying. The question is now, can we reverse this trend, or are we going to be continuing lower? And again, if we do want to see a continuation lower, we do need to be losing 26,000. If we lose 26,000, guys, on the daily chart, we would have broken that baseline, that lower band on the Gaussian channel. That will confirm a continuation downwards. On the weekly chart, we would have broken through the 200 moving average. That will also continue confirm a continuation downwards. So if you want to see a continuation downwards on a higher time frame, watch for a loss of 26,000. That is essentially the last line of support, the edge of a cliff. Bitcoin is on the verge of collapse, and if it loses 26,000, we are going to see that strong weekly move towards 24.4 to 25.2. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.